Hello and welcome to another Big Apple Nibbles video where we take another bite out of the Big Apple, this one on Gracie Mansion. Getting there. To get there, use the New York City subway system. You can take the Q train and go uptown until you hit the next to last stop on 86th Street. And when you exit, you'll see this map. It's in the Upper East Side in Manhattan, and you'll notice Carl Schurz Park with Gracie Mansion, which is located in it, on the East End Avenue at 88th Street. Carl Schurz Park. The mission of Carl Schurz Park Conservancy is to restore and beautify Carl Schurz Park, complementing the efforts of the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, with a goal to enhance the public's enjoyment and involvement in the park. In 1963, neighbors organized the mayor's Black Background Playground Committee with a focus on renovating the park playground, and during the fiscal crisis of the 1970s, the association, a nonprofit, was incorporated, setting up the first public-private partnership for parks in New York City, and in 2006, its name was changed to the Carl Schurz Park Conservancy. There are a number of birds of Carl Schurz Park, including the warblers, indigo bunting, Baltimore oriole, and it has 145 bird species that have been identified, including 25 different types of warblers. There are a number of different kinds of trees as well, ranging from oaks and hawthorns, elms, and planes and junipers. Gracie Mansion is the official residence of the mayor of New York City, built in 1799. It's located in Carl Schurz Park at the East End Avenue at 88th Street and the Yorkville neighborhood of Manhattan. It's a federal-style mansion that overlooks Hell Gate in the East River and consists of the original two-story house and an annex built in 1966. The original house is a New York City designated landmark and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a site where the Bellevue Mansion was, built in 1770 for Jacob Walton. It was destroyed in the American Revolutionary War, and in 1799, Archibald Gracie built a new house on the site, using it as his country home until 1823. Joe Fulk used the house from 1823 to 1857, and Noah Wheaton from 1857 to 1896, when the municipal government made it its grounds as part of the Carl Schurz Park. During the early 20th century, the mansion was used as public restrooms, an ice cream stand, and classrooms. Gracie Mansion housed the Museum of New York City from 1924 to 1936, and it was a historic house museum until 1942, when it became a mayoral residence. Since then, each mayor except for Michael Bloomberg has lived at Gracie Mansion at some point during their tenure. A reception wing named for the New York City First Lady Susan Wagner was completed in 1966. Further major renovations took place in 1983 to 84 and in 2002. The facade is composed of clapboard panels and shutters, and the original mansion's first floor includes parlors, a dining room, a kitchen, and a library. An annex was also built, which includes a ballroom and reception rooms. The interior of Gracie Mansion here is the rear of the building with an entrance where the tour guides came in from, the tour group came in from, and it leads to the first floor, to the ballroom. This is a Steinway piano in the ballroom. And the merchant Archibald Gracie, of who we see a portrait of here, was one of, which is also in the Gracie Mansion, was one of New York City's richest men. He bought the land in December 1798, and a year later he built a new estate on the site of the former Bellevue Mansion. Gracie's mansion was adjoined to St. Joseph's Orphan Asylum and Rhinelander family, and also the home of Alexander Hamilton. In 1801, Gracie hosted the New York Federalists to raise funds for the establishment of the New York Evening Post, which became the New York Post. The house originally faced southeast and was expanded in 1804 to face towards Hellgate Bridge. In 1809, the mansion was valued at $5,200. In 1811, expansion relocated the main entrance, added a pantry and parlor, 2 bedrooms, and cannons were installed during the War of 1812 to defend it. The house entertained up to 50 guests at a time, and Gracie hosted guests such as Alexander Hamilton, Astor, future French King Louis Philippe I, U.S. President John Quincy Adams, and writers James Fenimore Cooper and Washington Irving, and New York Governor DeWitt Clinton. Here we see the ballroom. Gracie's Mansion ballroom measures 48 feet by 28 feet, or 14.6 meters by 7.6 meters. Across, and it has a coved ceiling measuring 18 feet high. The walls of the ballroom were originally decorated with French windows and gray blue walls, topped by a frieze with garlands and fruit bowls. A chandelier from 1783 hangs from the ceiling, and 8 lighted scones are mounted on the walls. The ballroom's Adams-style mantel was salvaged from the James Watson house and residence of Archibald Gracie's brother-in-law, Moses Rogers. It has a Steinway piano, and this is a sitting room adjacent to the ballroom. The New York City governor took over the land, converting it to what would become Charles Rose Park. The house itself was acquired by the city in 1896, adding it to Charles Rose Park. The mansion served various functions such as of the park, including an ice cream stand, storage rooms, classrooms, and as a public toilet where for 5 cents people could use the house's bathrooms. In 1911, the mansion was outfitted with steam heat. The porch began to sag and the paint was peeling. The house was in such disrepair that the locals wanted the mansion demolished, although a group led by Mrs. Graham Elliott advocated for its preservation. The patriotic New Yorkers, led by May King Van Rensselaer, a Gracie descendant, wanted to open an American History Museum there in 1920. They petitioned the Manhattan Park Commissioner in 1922, requesting that the Gracie Mansion be converted into a public museum. In 1923, the Museum of the City of New York, or MCNY, led by Henry Collins Brown, also wanted to take over the house. The city and state governments gave the MCNY control of the mansion. The city government maintained the house, and the city's park commissioners could rent it to civic groups. The MCNY furnished Gracie Mansion with objects gifted and loaned by other institutions. Gracie Mansion formally opened to the public in March 1927. With a ground floor having a reception room, music room, dining room. A bedroom, theatrical history room, and drawing room on the second floor were also open to the public. The mansion had 130,000 visitors within a year of its rededication, and in 1929, the city authorized $12,000 in bonds to repair the mansion and add a fence. When the MCNY's new building on Fifth Avenue was completed in 1931, the museum moved out of the mansion. Robert Moses proposed acquiring an official New York City mayoral residence in 1935. At the time, the city's elected mayors lived in their own houses. The only indication that a building served as the mayor's residence was a special streetlight. Moses suggested the site be used as a mayoral residence to Mayor Fiorello H. LaGuardia, who agreed, and Moses in November 1941, in a letter to LaGuardia, predicted it would cost $25,000 to build the mansion. A plan to convert Gracie Mansion into New York City's mayoral residence was drafted in December 1941. The city board approved it the next month. Gracie Mansion was one of the few mayoral residences in the USA, and three museums lent furnishings for the house, and in January 1942, 300 workers started renovations by building a master bedroom, kitchen, servants' room, and offices for the park supervisor and the security detail. The LaGuardia family moved in on May 27, 1942, living on the second floor. They hosted guests such as George II of Greece, the first monarch to meet with a mayor, Cuban President Fulgencio Batista, Czech President Edvard Beneš, and U.S. Army General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Here we see one of the side rooms off of the ballroom, and William O'Dwyer was elected in 1945. The mansion was repainted and refurnished, and they moved in January 1946. The lawn to the south and east of the mansion was expanded by 25 feet. An elevator was installed for his wife, Kitty, who had Parkinson's disease, though she died a year after moving in. The O'Dwyer's official guests included U.S. President Henry S. Truman, and O'Dwyer remarried Susan Sloan Simpson in 1949. Then New York City Council President Vincent R. Impellitteri became the city's acting mayor in September 1950. He and his wife, Betty, moved in shortly after, and he would continue to serve as mayor for a few years. After that, Robert F. Wagner Jr. was elected in 1953, and he and his family moved in January 1954. The facade was repainted and interior rooms were refurnished. The mayor's wife, Susan, asked city workers to seal up the elevators. 5 staff members were employed, and a portrait of Susan by William Pogani was added in 1955. The kitchen was upgraded in 1957 with cabinets, an oven, a refrigerator, and appliances. Susan Wagner hosted 4 events a week at the mansion, and almost all rooms at Gracie Mansion were open to visitors, and charitable organization hosted teas. Notable guests included U.S. Presidents Harry Truman and John F. Kennedy, and in the 1950s, the mansion averaged 600 weekly visitors and food costs averaging $2,000 a month. Edward Embry designed an expansion, and the plans were delayed when Susan fell ill from cancer, dying in March 1964. The architect Mott Schmidt designed a new west wing, and groundbreaking took place in May 1965. The Wagners moved out in September 1965. Here we see some of more of the room adjacent to the ballroom with Archibald Gracie's wife. And here is a hyphen with in the hyphen, the connecting room to the annex with an art piece called Golden Dreams by Hugo G. Urrutia, and a plaque of the connector, or the architectural hyphen. And the next mayor to occupy Gracie Mansion was John Lindsay. He was elected mayor in November 1965, moving to Gracie Mansion in March 1966. The interior spaces were redecorated. The city government spent $20,000 to install sprinklers after officials declared the house a fire hazard. A helipad was built. The annex expansion cost $800,000 and was dedicated in September 27th of 1966. New York parks banned active recreational activities near the house, and the original furnaces were replaced. New York City park workers built a tree house for the Lindsays' children, and their guests included Johnny Carson, Charlie Chaplin, and Robert Redford. Abraham Beame succeeded Lindsay in 1973, and the house was renovated in January 1974. He and his wife Mary moved in on February 1975. During the Beame's occupancy, the mansion hosted guests, including Japanese Emperor Hirohito and actress Gloria Swanson. It held events for the United States bicentennial celebration. Next, Edward Koch in 1977 moved in and ordered new furniture. He added decor, such as a rabbit sculpture named Pee-wee. Paintings were added, including art from the Met, modern art galleries, and New York University. He regularly hosted events for guests ranging from civics associations to politicians. Koch would invite dozens of people for breakfast and dinner, and he hosted visitors including President Ronald Reagan, Mother Teresa, and filmmaker Woody Allen. Tours opened in September 1980, attracting 20,000 people annually. Koch renovated the mansion in 1981, forming Gracie Mansion Conservancy. The project included new furnishings, landscape, a new porch, expanded staff rooms, HVAC and electrical upgrades, a gourmet kitchen, and refurbishment of paths and parking. The renovations finished in November 1984, costing $5.5 million, and next year, Koch hosted a record 23,000 guests. Here's a dining room, a picture of the dining room at the rear of the house that seats 22 people. After the 1980s renovation, it included a French Empire sideboard made in the U.S. and 1830s French wallpaper that depicted rustic and classical scenes, costing $40,000. There's also a fireplace that is placed off-center along one wall. The dining table itself, made in 1815 for the Gracies, is constructed of marble and oak wood. Next was David Dinkins, who became the New York City mayor in 1989. The Dinkins family moved in on January 1990. Joyce Dinkins read to first-grade students at the mansion once a week, and they hosted a kids' day at Gracie Mansion every summer. Their highest-profile guest was future South African President Nelson Mandela, and city's inspectors discovered high lead levels in the mansion's water supply in 1992. Rudy Giuliani defeated Dinkins in 1993, and he and his wife Donna Hanover and their children Andrew and Caroline moved in. Hanover became the chairwoman of the Gracie Mansion Conservancy, raising $1 million for the house's upkeep. In 1994, a new $150,000 security system was installed, the chimneys and furnishings were repaired, and it was repainted. The Tiffany Company gifted china to the mansion, and Giuliani separated from Hanover in 2001. She sued to prevent Giuliani's girlfriend, Judith Nathan, from moving in, disputing whether the mansion is a private residence rather than a private space. A judge ruled in Hanover's favor. The Conservancy restored the windows, roof railings, and carpets, and the mansion had several rat infestations at that time. Next, Michael Bloomberg was elected in 2001, serving as the mayor until 2013. He never lived in the mansion, saying it would be a large unjustified expense for taxpayers. The exterior was repainted in April 2002, and a major restoration began that May, involving replacing mechanical systems, repainting, and restoring historical elements. The Museum of Modern Art provided sculptures, and Tiffany donated china. The project was completed in October 2002 for $7 million, but funded with $5.5 million in private donations. The house was then opened to the public, and Bloomberg used the mansion as a place for official visitors to stay. It hosted 178 events in 2003, including receptions and holiday parties. The Gracie Mansion Conservancy raised $1 million in donations and had 23,000 visitors in 2003. The house hosted official state luncheons, visits, dinners, receptions, and award ceremonies and cultural events. The Gracie Mansion retained a staff of 12 people. By 2011, annual visitation increased to 40,000 people, and 16 active city building code violations prompted a renovation of the kitchen in June 2012. Bill de Blasio began moving into the mansion in June 2014. They furnished the second floor, and the first floor was used for official events and city business. A fence was installed in 2014, and they hosted 50 events a year at the mansion. And his wife, Shirlane McRae, hosted several exhibits at the mansion during de Blasio's mayoralty. By 2015, the roof was leaking and needed to undergo asbestos abatement. Eric Adams and his family lived in Gracie Mansion after he won the 2021 election. He said that he would bring only his mattress to the mansion without redecorating. The house was rented out for events such as weddings. And on September 26, 2024, federal agents executed a search warrant at Gracie Mansion just hours before Adams was indicted on federal charges of bribery, fraud, and illicit solicitation of foreign campaign donations. Here we see a picture of the library, also known as the small parlor, study, and sitting room, which is next to the dining room and in front of it. The library's windows included etchings of the names of Gracie's granddaughter Millie, John Lindsay's daughter Margie, Carolyn Giuliani, and Donna Hanover. It has a nice fireplace and single glass door bookcase, and both the library and dining room date from the house's 1799 completion. Here we see the foyer, and next to the foyer is the parlor, also known as the living room or drawing room, with a large marble fireplace. The parlor, added during the expansion of 1811, has full-height windows that face the house's porch. Compared with other rooms in the mansion, the drawing room has deeper windows. Its marble fireplace mantel is decorated with plain columns and a linear relief pattern. So thank you for watching another video on New York City, where we take another bite out of the Big Apple. Be sure to check out some of my other travel videos and video logs. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.